Can you hear me in the back? Oh my gosh. Anyone else not a morning person? There's like, geez, oh man. It's like all these rules and it was serious sounding and there's like cards and I have to keep track of the colors and some people make me sound like I'm better than I probably am. There's a lot of pressure there. Wow. Whew. All right. So I am a big fan, actually, I'm supposed to look this way, I'll probably get told what to do a lot. I am a big fan of asking questions. I will admit that one time somebody asked me a question right in the middle of a presentation, totally threw my timing off and kind of completely distracted me. So on the other hand, what I really like about CAST is it is the conference for asking questions, and it will not run from any. So if we run out of time, you can like track me down in the hall, and I'm still good with that. Like, we'll just keep going. I'm good with questions. What else do I want to say to start with? Just that, well, like, wow, what a heavy opening. I actually do have a lot of things that I want to say, but I think the first thing I want to say is I want to thank CAST for having me here. I was amazed by the number of people. This is their first conference. I honestly can't count how many conferences I've been to anymore. I think I've become a little bit of a conference junkie, but that's okay. There's the worst things you could do. And I guess the first conference that I went to, I mostly went home and went, oh, I'm not alone, because I've often worked as the lone software tester. And I've gone home and been like, oh, wow, there's other people who do like what I do for a living, and I'm not so alone, which is great. Because when you're in software testing, you sort of have a back-of-the-house job. Right? It's not really a job that's really in the limelight. A lot of times you work alone and you can feel alone. And then you come to a conference like this and you're like, wow, there's kindred spirits out there and it can just feel amazing. And so that has always been a big part of going to conferences for me. And the other part has just been the community for me has been really big. Like I was just sitting next to Rob Sabrin, who's one of my dearest friends and has been for a long time, and his wife Ann is here, which is awesome. And the community's just given me a lot. And so I have a lot of gratitude to it. And I wanted to thank CAST, and I was thinking about it this morning. I mean, like not to sound obnoxious or anything, but I've done a fair amount of presentations, but I was thinking like, what is it about this one today that had me so like, I don't know, geared up? And then it dawned on me that for me, CAST might not be the biggest in terms of numbers of people who attend, but it's one of the most influential conferences across the globe. It's that simple. It's across the globe. You go pretty far and people are going to know about CAST. And it dawned on me that being asked to do the keynote was like getting an Emmy in our field. And that's how I decided I'm going to take this. And like, if that's weird, whatever. That's how I'm going to take it. This to me is like my Emmy. And then I was thinking about Sally Field, like, oh my gosh, I guess you guys like me. And so that's probably how I feel, and that's probably why this is kind of a big deal. So that feels really good. So thank you, CAST, for having me here, and thanks for everybody who is here. And is apparently about to quiz the dickens out of me with cards. That will be fun, right?
I have a burning issue. I need to plug in your slides before the monitors go out.
Okay. All right. It's good. See, I told you I was going to start being told what to do. I can do this. I can, right? Some like a lot of years, and you'd like to think you can do it, and it will warm up, and it will be fine. It's coming.
Thank you.
All right. So don't look at the screen for just a second. Except your testers, so you probably already did. Okay. So there's something else that I wanted to share that's a little bit unique today, and that is, I'm afraid of saying this because I think it's going to be like, what's the word I want? Isolating to some people. I've been in this field for 30 years. I don't know how it happened. I was like 9 when I started. So go with that. But it was 30 years in May that I've been out of college and in the software field, and it's just staggering to me, especially somebody who majored in journalism and had no intention of working with computers. Staggering to me, and I've been like just really conscious of it. One of those things that just like lodges in your brain. So I had this concept that what I would do is this sort of like giant retro of myself. Okay, like we all get a little heady at moments, right? Right, everyone, right? A little too much caffeine in the morning, you're sitting alone. Happens to me all the time. But I decided to do a retro of 30 years, and then I wanted to do it really short and wanted to do it like in a little video. And I thought I'd play a song, and I had this really cute song picked out. And Ben told me that if I do a live stream and I play a copyrighted song, that like we could be shut down and like laws could be flying and really horrible buildings burning. Who knows? Bad things could happen. I'd be in deep trouble. So I don't know. I can't play the cute song I had, which by the way was "Here Comes the Sun" from the Beatles. But Ben's got some like disco music, something that I would probably never buy, and he's probably going to try to play it at the same time. So here's what I'm going to ask. I'm usually really bad at introducing myself because I don't know, I find it obnoxious or something. It's uncomfortable. But I did this little slideshow to share with everyone. And then when I showed it to family members, they said, put a little personal in there, like you're a person too, like share a little bit of your personal stuff. So I'm just going to let it kind of rotate through. There's no quiz coming, okay? So like if it goes fast, it goes fast, like chill, get over it. I could show it to you later. And then after that, I'll come back on and actually talk. Okay. As it turns out, slides go faster than my speaking. So that's a good thing sometimes. So it's been incredibly busy, is what I've learned. And it's always busy, and it never really seems to stop. So one of the reasons why I didn't want to mention about being in the field for 30 years is that I just feel that sometimes there's these weird age barriers that happen, and I hate that. I hate that. I can remember being really young in software testing, and it seemed like everyone would talk to me, and then it seems like when you get a little bit older, some group of people don't talk to you because they see you as older and they don't think they can relate to you, and I just find that really a challenge and unfortunate. So anyways, it was great for me to go back and do a little retro on myself, and I think it was in 2008 I had blogged about it would be great if a tester had a portfolio. So when I hire and interview people, yep, somebody in the room I've done that with, it's a drag to read a really linear resume that doesn't really tell me all that much except for what companies they've been at when and make sure like all the holes are filled. I don't really care about that as much as I care about what their experience has been, and it's probably much more important to know like what you've been doing in the time. So if you were to do a retro of yourself, what would you want it to be? And once I started working on this, I realized how much I enjoyed doing it. I liked looking back. I liked knowing like where I've been, what I've done, where the thrills have been, where, you know, I've had some years where I felt like, you know, it was a slog, right? Like we've all had projects that have maybe been tough ones or not the most glamorous. And I would encourage you to seriously think about doing it for yourself, whether you do it as some sort of, you know, PowerPoint and play to disco music or whatever. It's worth doing because it really shows you some things. You can learn a lot of things about yourself, and actually that's one of the things I want to start talking about is I want to get personal. By the way, I'm really not used to being tethered to a mic. I tend to be a pacer, so I'm finding this part awkward, but I'm working with it. So I have a few things that I want to talk about getting personal. It seems like every year a couple of people will come to me quietly from somewhere, at a conference or somewhere, and they'll say to me, like, I don't know what I want to do. I feel stuck. My job's okay, my boss is okay. You know, it's not horrible, but I'm just not really fully happy. I want to make a move, but I don't know what I want to do. And they come and they ask me for advice, and it's kind of interesting because one of the first things I think in my head when they ask me is, do you even know me? Why are you giving me that credibility, that authority over your life? You're going to know you so much better than I know you. And why would you do that? Now, it could be interesting to get like a kind of a random stranger's opinion on something, but by the same token, you could probably do it more for yourself, really, than I can do it for you. So I often will very patiently say to somebody, well, what are you working on now? What about that do you like? What do you not like? What do you wish you were doing? What do you want to do coming up? Where's the gap between what you want to do and what you're doing now that you think you need to learn? Because most of the time when I meet people, there's something they feel, doesn't even mean it's true, but they feel there's something that they don't know that's keeping them from getting to the next thing they want to do. Or sometimes they don't know what the next thing is and they're just completely stuck. And so my point is always that if you know what you want to do next, you can start to gear your thinking and your learning for that. And then you can start asking yourself like, well, who could help me with that? Like, where could I learn that from? You know, what people in the community or, you know, people that I'm working with could help me. And that's a big deal. And then it's a really interesting, weird experience that I have going on. It's like stereo for me. Here I am, I have a 23-year-old daughter who graduated college, who's going through all that startup, stumble up, bumble up time in a career. I hope her boss isn't listening, right? You know, all that awkward startup stuff. And then I'm also working with a fair number of people a lot younger than me. And I see certain things that I so wish I could say things to people to give them like advice. And it's not because I want to be like the old lady, like, well, I'll tell you what to do. It's not that. It's actually, and it's so hard to say this to somebody, it's honestly out of the goodness of my heart that I wish I could give people advice sometimes and that they would listen to it. But people have a hard time kind of being lectured to or spoken to or whatever. They need to figure out some things for themselves. So I get that. But one of the things my daughter said to me, and I think this is true for probably, other people. How do you know? Like, how do you know what you're good at? How do you figure that out? I should flip a few slides. I'm not reading slides to you. If you want to read, they'll be there. And I said to her, well, it's kind of hard, but basically, observe yourself. Watch yourself. Watch yourself when you're at work. Watch yourself at home. You don't usually morph into a different person. So what you're really good at, you're going to figure out. And it will come to you. And sometimes you'll figure out the things that you're not good at, and sometimes you won't like that. And anybody who knows anything about me knows that I tell stories. And so here you go. Here's your first one. So some years ago, it was like 1998. See, I don't want to date myself, but I just did. I was really focused on performance testing. Loved it. I was working in e-commerce at the time. It was really hot. Performance testing was really cool. Totally fascinated me. I was like so all in on what I was doing. It was awesome. But I have a problem doing performance testing that I've only shared with a few people in the Whopper community. And that is, I don't have a math background. I just don't. I don't have a math background. Didn't like math in school. Avoided it as much as I could. Have no statistics background at all. And okay, first time publicly admitting this. I always try to save up like something new I've never said anywhere before. I have this weird habit. I tend to transpose numbers. It's really not a good thing. And it took me a long time to find out that I do that. And now when I'm doing something that's important with numbers, I ask people to double check me. And I know to look for it because it's a thing and it happens. So here I am doing performance testing, right? Tons of statistics in there. Tons of mathematical thinking that goes on in there. You know what I did? I gave it up. I walked away from performance testing. So I know the part that I'm really good at. I'm really good at modeling production. I can really get into like, well, we have X number of users doing this, this, and this, and X number doing this, this, and this. And I've referred to it as almost like a symphony, where you get all of that going on at the same time, and you get that like humming speed of what production looks like, and then you can take measurements and you can see how it looks. But the measurement part's a huge part. You can't just run the test. You have to be able to do the analysis. I'm not that good at it. And I tried really hard to get better at that. And finally I had to say to myself, like, get over it. You're not that good at that. What are you good at? Maybe go and do that. Focus on more of that, right? And that's one of the bits of advice that I would give you. Get to know yourself, which sometimes you have to trust yourself, and sometimes you have to admit some icky things that you don't like. You might wish you were good at something that you're actually not. You can push the needle, you can try really hard to get better at some things, and that works. Some things, you are who you are, and you have to work with it. So, here's the next thing I want to talk about, your boss. Oh my gosh, like I couldn't go on a lot of stories on this one, right? Everyone in the room in on that? Lots of stories, right? Okay. I guess my biggest advice on this one, after all these years, comes down to like one sentence. Try really hard not to work for somebody you don't respect. It really boils down to that. Oh yeah, totally in trouble. Okay, great. I could be hiring. You never know, right? Talk to me. So, you never know, I'm just saying, right? Stuff happens. I've met people at conferences and then hired them, and I have evidence in the room. So, I do. So why? Why does this matter? Because the rest of the relationship will falter. If you don't respect the person that you're working for, the rest of it's all going to be a little wonky. It just goes a little bit sideways. And the other thing is, they're going to probably know it. They're going to feel it. Chances are they don't respect you either. It's probably a mutual problem. And they're not going to advocate for you at times that you're not even in those meetings to know that they should have been advocating for you. You'll just feel the effect of it, and you won't really directly know. So just simply try hard not to work for somebody. And this happens. Your boss quits. All of a sudden, the boss's boss is your boss. People change. It shifts. It's not that simple. It's not as if you always go in and get to choose. Sometimes it changes on you. But when it changes, be prepared to change possibly too. And the other thing that I find a lot of people who are new in the field is there's this weird thing that happens where people seem to think their boss is going to be like their mentor. Somebody's going to help them and coach them. And that would be nice. That would be lovely. It would also be really nice, like if we all had a nap this afternoon and we had cookies and we had time for a coffee. But like it just doesn't happen. If you're lucky, you'll get it somewhere in your career. You might never get it. Your boss may never even understand what you fully do, may never fully appreciate what it is you bring to the table, and you might have to report to that person and work with it and deal with it. So my advice is don't give up. Like, find somebody else who can coach you, find somebody else who can advise you, and probably have that not be one person but a couple of people, and have it be people that you feel that they're good in certain ways and they can help you in certain ways to learn things, because it's not naturally and instantly going to be your boss. Oh, I meant to make this other comment. Anyone on Twitter? Love Twitter. Kind of love, hate it, actually. I schedule tweets to go off during this presentation, so if you want to sit and be lazy, you can just retweet some of my quotes, and then that way I also know I got quoted right. So I'm just saying. There could be a time zone bug. I would expect one of you to find it, and that's probably because my profile is probably set up on Central Time, so my tweets might be exactly an hour late. That occurred to me, but I didn't fix it because sometimes it's good enough and you ship. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I can't go past that. Office politics. So there was a really long time, I think early in my career, that I was really focused on learning technical stuff. I didn't major in CS. I didn't have a tech background, so I think I felt a little insecure that I didn't know a lot of technology stuff. So I was deep diving on that, trying to kind of catch up. And that was good. That was really important. But I never at software conferences wanted to talk about the lighter things or softer topics. And then after a while, it started to occur to me that some of those things were as much of a handicap for me during the day as some of the technical things. And I got to a place where I was like, you know what? I don't care. I want to talk about those things. I want to talk about the things that like messed me up during the day, and office politics by a landslide was one of them. So in 2009, I did an invited speaker talk at PNSQC. It's recorded. It's out there. It's long. I admit it. Sorry. But honestly, I just really kind of poured my heart into talking about office politics and how to navigate around them. And to this day, I would go back and listen to that. There's nothing dated in that material. It's all still true. I don't like politics. I try to be light on politics, but I recognize that, in my opinion, the minute you have two people in the room, there's politics. It's already stuff going on. It just is. I wish it wasn't, but it's true. So in the beginning, I was in the back. Literally, I, at one company, was the last cubicle all the way in the back, which I thought was awesome because I didn't really deal with people a lot at the time, and was very happy back there. And I figured I'm just going to avoid them. Like I'm not getting involved in politics. Let the rest of them do that. But as it turns out, you can really stall your career at a certain point. You actually have to deal with people. It's not just software. You have to deal with people, and so you have to figure out politics somehow. And maybe the only way you figure them out is how not to get hammered. And maybe you don't figure them out any better than that, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them because it's real. Let's see. So much more I could say. There's another little story. Anyone who knows me is laughing now. They should be laughing now because you know there's like a bunch of them and I'm trying to like select pick. So some years ago I had a boss. I still embarrass him. It's awesome to do this to a boss. His name was Bob. So Bob, if you're listening, here she goes again. Bob was my best ever boss. And he was my best ever boss for a number of reasons. He taught me a ton about software testing before I met James Bach and Kem Kainer. He was real. He was on site with the stuff that I was doing. And he was just a great person. Like very low in the games, politics stuff. He really coached me in a million ways, and I have a lot of gratitude towards him. One of the things Bob said to me one day was, and he said it very slowly and very reluctantly, and I thought, oh, listen up, there's something important going on here. Because when people have a hard time getting it out, that's when you should most be quiet, because that's probably something really difficult that they need to say, and it's something to listen to. And he said to me, can you stop treating me like the boss? And I wasn't really sure what he meant by that. And then I got really quiet, and then I realized, yeah, I do that. Like I'm just a little bit nervous around him. Great guy, and totally respect him, but I'm a little bit nervous around him, and like I just really want to please him. And he was being promoted up to a different job, and I was filling his shoes, and they felt like huge shoes to fill. And so I was constantly like running as hard as I could to do the best I could. But I realized that in that nervousness, which was really mostly respect, because I deeply respected him then and still do, that it was holding me up, that it was keeping me from being me, and it was keeping my ideas, they were like getting gummed up, and I was trying too hard to be perfect. And man, when you try to be perfect, you just mess up. Okay, it's like why I didn't rehearse this keynote. That's my excuse the last few weeks. It's not procrastination, it's because I didn't want to mess up trying to be perfect. You could laugh, it's okay, you could lighten up. But it's true, when you try to be perfect and you try to be doing everything like just right, you're not working at your best, you're not relaxed, you can't think under those conditions. So one of the conditions that I look for at work is when the stress gets really high, which, it's funny, happens to be that way right now. We've got a really big release coming, shocker. And what's then one of the biggest things I'm concerned about? I don't want the testers in the team too stressed. Why? Well, part of it's because I'm a nice person. I really hate to see somebody going through a hard time. But a big piece of it is they won't be able to do their best. There's no way. The busier you get, the more stressed you are, the worse you do at everything. And you mess up your health and probably your home life at the same time. So it's a bloody mess, right? And that's one of the things in software testing that just persists forever. And I've told people, if you come in the field and you're not an adrenaline junkie, and you don't figure out how to deal with stress, don't stay. It doesn't matter what you're going to work on. It is a high-stress job. Even though the pay's not always all that high and the glamour's not all that high, it is a high-stress job, especially if you take it seriously. If you feel like your eyes are the last thing on software before it ships, you can feel mammoth responsibility. But the more you feel that sense of responsibility, you actually can't perform. So there's like this weird internal fight that's going on. And I realized he was right. And so I brought it way down with him. And I started to, like he did, feet up on the desk, just chilling out a little bit, just trying to talk about what the problem was, telling him the truth about like where I got stuck, what I didn't know. It just went so much better. And to this day, even though I've never had another boss say that to me, I try to treat them all that way because I know inherently Bob was right. And I try to my best to do that with people that I work with too. Because as soon as you're too tensed up, it just doesn't work. Coworkers, well, this is like the boss, right? I could talk about this for a really long time. I've worked with a ton of people over the years, and there's some things that I've learned, like, wow, it's really hard to network back before LinkedIn existed. And we didn't have a lot of the tools that we have now. Networking now is just, it's in some ways a lot easier, in other ways, you almost can't get rid of the coworkers you didn't like. I'm just saying, because we all know we have those too, right? But here's the thing about networking. This cracks me up. I see this every year. I'll meet people, they've been a long-time employee, loving it, job, everything's going great. Something happens at the company, they think they're going to be out of a job, or they are out of a job, and all of a sudden, ho-ho, they want to network. Sorry, it really doesn't work that way. All of a sudden they want a LinkedIn profile. All of a sudden they want to have published an article. All of a sudden they want to reach out to people. You needed to have done that way back when. And not in a greasy kind of way of like, I'm going to network with people because I'm trying to get something from them, but because naturally you stay in touch with some people. Naturally, the people you like working with, you probably want to work with again. I think about that all the time. It's a really sleazy but completely honest thing to say. Literally, every single person I work with, I ask myself, do I want to work with them again? Would I? Would I hire them if I go somewhere else? Because that happens with me. And I do. And in some cases, I don't. And I don't accept every LinkedIn connection, right? Sorry, I'm not trying to sound difficult, but I don't. It's that simple. You want to work with the people you want to work with? Check out the landscape around you right now. Where is that? If you had to change jobs tomorrow, who would you take with you? Who would you like to leave? The other little story I wanted to share about coworkers, people change, and we should give people time and space to change, okay? Stuff happens to people. It happens every day, all the time. So Way back when, at an earlier point in my career, one of the guys I was working with was a developer. I have no idea what he had going on in his personal life. Not my business, not my concern. Kind of goofed off a lot at work. I didn't always really respect him very much. Do you know he's a C-level executive now? Ho, 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 what 20, 30 years can do. And I wish I had built a better relationship with him then. I pigeonholed him. I looked at him at this tiny little box of time, and I treated him and saw him in a certain way. And now, all these years later, I wish I had a different relationship with him. So people change, their careers change, and so doesn't yours. So it's like this constantly moving thing of you're changing, they're changing, and things rolling forward. Did you know in the 7 years that 7, 8, I don't know, whatever, number of years that I worked as a solo consultant, do you know where my clients came from? 95% of them were people that I knew. 95% of them were my boss at some point in my time or a coworker. That simple. So those people really matter. Those are big relationship opportunities. I think in the beginning I thought it was the boss. Woo. It's not. It could be your coworkers. Your coworker could become your next client, could be your boss, could be, who knows? So why limit it? I wish now I had thought about that. I certainly treat things differently now. I figured that out somewhere along the way. I wish I'd figured it out earlier. And I'm saying it now only to try to help somebody else, right? Not because I'm trying to like lecture and tell you like, oh, I've got it all figured out. No, I don't. Trust me, I don't. But this is one that I feel pretty good about. You know, look at those relationships. Business. So this is really kind of funny. Like I said, some years ago, all I wanted to think about was getting more technical. And I didn't think about the business side of the house. They were usually the people who sat in like, there was one company I worked at that the executives had different desks than we did. We had like the crappy metal ones and they had like the really nice wood ones. So we called it Mahogany Row and it was all the executives. Kind of plays out like that everywhere. Years later I can say, same thing. And I didn't care about the business. I didn't think about the business. Didn't mean much. I was really busy in the corner trying to be a really good geek doing what I was doing. But you know what? The first company that I went to work for went bankrupt. Here's that story. Here we go, another story. So my first job out of college, everybody in the company, got called into the biggest meeting room in the office one morning. I didn't know, I had no idea. Like, go do what you're told, right? Go in the meeting room and there's like all the VPs, everybody's in there, and the venture capitalist pulled the plug. Whole company went out. We were told, go back to your desk, pack your stuff. Your box will be checked on the way out the door to make sure you're not taking, I don't know, super secrets or whatever, bad things. And that was it. We're out of work. And I was like 23 years old. And I was seeing a VP get let go just like I was let go. To this day, I now think it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. Not so much then, but now. Because it showed me like how fast change can happen and that it can happen to other people and it can happen to a VP and you're not immune to it. It happens. It also taught me something else, which is you're in business. I know you're a geek and you love what you do. And if you're really good, you really are a geek. And that's great. But the company that you're working for, it is a business. They make money. They have to make money. Otherwise, I don't know, I guess you'd be doing charity or not-for-profit work. And that's a different story. So here's the thing. You have to be aware of it. So true story, about a year and a half ago, I was working with a group of testers, and I had said something to them about, there's an earnings call this week, are you gonna listen to it? And they were like, what's an earnings call? And I'm thinking like, wow, really? Like seriously? I mean, these days, you need to know. So my advice is, even if you don't care about the business world, even if you don't understand stocks, even if you don't get the money thing, listen. Those earnings calls are so much more digestible to you than you probably think they are. And you can learn a lot from them. And why be blindsided? You should have an understanding of what's going on in the company, just as a whole. So I remember sitting down and playing the earnings call. It was already had happened. Playing the earnings call with a group of testers. And one of the biggest fears going on at that particular time was that there was going to be a layoff. Okay, like, haven't heard that before. But they were really worried about it. And I played the earnings call, like I didn't say a word. We just sat at a table in a meeting room together and they listened. And they listened to the CEO announce, one of the things we're going to do to make the numbers right is there'll be a layoff later this year. And their eyes are popping. And they're looking at me like I had told them something big and magical. It wasn't me. It was the earnings call. Listen to it. You're in a business. You have to look at that side of the house at least a little tiny bit of your time. Or you could be blindsided by it. And you shouldn't need to be. Okay, where's Pete? Where's my dear friend Pete? Maybe he stepped out of the room for a minute. We won't make him on the spot for this one. So here's, Pete will smile when he sees this one. So balancing work-life. I could go on about this for days. So the secret behind this, it's really hard. It's not always pretty. Doesn't always work. In fact, to be honest, sometimes it totally sucks. I'm not one to swear at a conference, but it just does. Everybody in the room knows it. So the whole balancing act is really difficult. The thing I want to highlight is everyone around you at work, they're actually balancing too. And you might not know their stuff that's going on, and they might actually be really good at covering it up. Yeah, doing great, right? But maybe they're not doing great. Maybe they've got something going on. I remember changing jobs around the time I was getting divorced. It's not a great time in my life, not a great time meeting people. Having people, how you doing? It's like, actually really crappy, but so good to meet you. I didn't actually say that, but I have wanted to say that, and I've wanted to say that a number of times in my life. The reason I said Pete would smile is because I have some stuff going on in my life right now, and I often have. Anyone really close to me knows that I've been through a few things over the years, and it's a constant balancing act. How could I possibly talk about my career or think about your career and not think about that? And it's not about, it's funny, you hear work-life balance and you instantly think about people who have kids. It's not about having kids, right? It could be all sorts of other family members, and just recognizing that other people are trying to juggle it too. A wise person said to me once that sometimes the only way you're going to achieve balance is over the long haul. So maybe in a given week, your job's going to take the front seat and your family's going to suffer a little. And you're going to know that. And it may pain you, and it may pain them. And maybe the following week, you kind of blow out of work a little bit because you got to do some double down time for the family because now it's their time. I remember one time this giant release shipped from work, and man, a bunch of us have been working a crazy amount of hours. And the owner of the company said, well, I want to take everybody out for an outing. Like, let's all go have dinner or something. And inside my head, I'm thinking, can you please not do that? Can you please tell me to go home? I have been with all of you enough. Okay? I'm good. I'm not mad at anyone. It was rough, but we did it. Now it is time to be home. Tell us, I'll go early for the day, right? But that didn't happen, and we all went out together again. More bonding time. So when you look at the bigger picture, it's more about an overall balance, because some weeks the whole thing is just a bloody mess, and it's just, I'd be fantasizing if I didn't say that sometimes it really doesn't work out. Maybe there are some people in this room, I don't know, who have not had really big things go on in their life, and it's all been a glorious balancing act, but I've got to believe I'm not the only one on that one. So I couldn't possibly think about my career and not think about the community, but it occurs to me that there are a lot of people who think about their career and never think about their professional community, and I'm okay with that. That's their choice. So for me, when I came, I think it was 1997 or 98, I went to my first Star East, and there was a guy sitting in the hallway that I ended up chatting with a little bit. Turned out it was Kem Kaner. And he was really nice to me and encouraged me to come back to another conference and maybe speak. And then I met James Bach, and they he encouraged me as well. A little secret about James Bach people don't know. It's fun to tell a secret on him. He encouraged me to speak at conferences. He did. He told me back in the beginning, he said, you have some cool stories, you should talk. And I was like, no way, no way. I was very shy. And I said, not happening. And he's like, no, you should. Because you're not like a big, fancy, all polished up speaker. You're really clearly in the trenches and you know the stuff you're talking about, and like that's what we need. We need more experience reports. We need more real people, not just like all glossy speakers to be out there doing their thing. And so to this day, if James is at a conference with me, I will ask him to come and watch me, and then later we sneak away and he critiques me on how I did because I've asked him to do that. And I have the benefit that he's been doing that for years, and so he can compare, and he does. Well, that time in Sweden, you know, you're a little bit, and it's great, it's really helpful for me. And it's nice to have that. It's nice to have people in the community who both encourage you to do something, and it's nice to have people in the community who will question you and who will give you hard feedback, which hopefully is what Pete made it sound like I will do. I sounded terribly smart, by the way, his introduction. But it's true. But I meet other people at all sorts of places that I've worked who are like, yeah, conferences, fluffy stuff. I don't go to them. First of all, I work at a company that doesn't pay for them, and all those like slick speakers, I can't relate to them, and like it's all fluff. And they don't want anything to do with it. Okay, like whatever, that's an option. You don't have to. But if I want to look back at my career, when I leave this field, which will happen, when I leave this field, it will be very important to me that I have contributed to the community. And what is a challenge for me now is answering how. How will I have contributed to the community? And that is really what's behind that retrospective. I asked myself the question going on several long walks. What are like the 5 things you think you did for the community? Can you list them? Like asking myself that. Because if I can't answer it, sure as heck, nobody in here can answer it. What would I want those things to be? And why is that so important to me? Well, because people gave to me, that really mattered to me. And because at the end of a really long road, you want to have probably felt that it was not for naught. That it wasn't just to ship this one release, but that you did something meaningful in your life. And that part of that meaning was your work. Not all of it, but a big part of it. You want to think you have contributed. And that is one of the biggest things going on for me now. That is part of why when I hire people now or I work with people now, they don't know this, and that's okay, they don't have to know this. I desperately am trying to figure out how to give some people some of what I've had. It's time. Like it's time. That's what it is at 30 years. It's time to help somebody else. It's a matter of trying to find someone or someones who want that and to not push it on them, but to have it be something that they actually want and to be able to give to somebody in a way that is maybe helpful for them as opposed to me foisting something on them. You know? There's a momentum going on right now, Fiona's here, and I know she's one of the persons doing this, about helping the next person speak, right? Like, so maybe, you know, your first track session, it's really terrifying. Your first keynote's terrifying. But you get over it, you get a little bit better at it, you start to speak at more and more conferences, but at some point, you might scratch your head and be like, how do I help this person? What if they want to speak at a conference? What if they're like I was in 1997, totally shy and couldn't talk to anybody? I was like just mortified at the thought of it. And wouldn't I feel better if when I leave, because I see myself leaving like this, you're not going to like this, Ben, on the video, but that's okay. Right? Someday I'll just be gone. Right? Do you want me to do that again? Someday I'll just be gone, and so what comes in place of that? You'd like to think maybe it's a person or two behind you that got a little bit of coaching or a little bit of inspiration from you. There's no other weirdness behind it, at least not for me. If there is for other people, that's their bag. For me, it's just sincere. I just want to give back to the community, and I want to give to other people, and it's a matter of figuring that out. And to be honest, going back to the balancing act, sometimes I just can't do everything. You know? To be honest, right about now, I'm about at capacity. right? Got a release going on, I got a group of new testers, do my first full-time job in 8 years, trying to figure that out again. Hey, get stuff going on at home. It's chaos. Where's Pete? Told you I'd fit that word in. Chaos, total chaos, but it's true. But think about the community, and I guess I say that because it's meant so much to me. And Rob Sapern's sitting over there, and I mean, I know it means the world to him too. And I learned a lot of that from Rob. I don't know if he's going to be all right with me saying that, but there we have it. Because it's a really nice thing to watch people who've given heart and soul to the community, right? You don't do some things like form a community called REST, which to be honest, I haven't really done much with it lately. Terrible on me. So it's the Workshop on Regulated Software Testing, and John McConda in Indianapolis and Griffin Jones up in New York have been holding up the fort on this one, but I don't make any money on that. In fact, I pay for the lunches at that. Like out of my pocket, don't expense it, just pay for the lunches, get the people in the room doing the stuff that we do, which is to talk about what it is to test in regulated software. You don't do things like that unless it really means something to you. You know, after a while, you're not faking this stuff, it's what it is. All right, so goals. You knew this word was going to come up, right? And you knew there'd be some sort of cheesy photo or some image of like inspiration with a quiet lake or something. Hey, it's a stretch to find pictures sometimes, right? So advice I would want to give to somebody, and this is what I'm hoping, I don't know though, so I can only hope right now. This is what I'm hoping the questions get focused on, is about goals. So my advice to somebody would be, don't feel badly if you can't figure out your end goal now of your career. Don't even feel bad if you can't figure out the next job. Sometimes it's not obvious what you want to do next. And that's okay. Technology changes pretty fast. Situations change pretty fast. I mean, the tech world it's crazy. It's constantly changing. And so you might want to specialize, 5 years from now, you might specialize in something that doesn't exist today. So how could you have forecasted that? So one of the things that I like about my retro, my slide deck, is this. I've worked with a ton of different software, and I love that. It's been awesome. That's my adrenaline rush, one of many. Caffeine, coffee's the other one. Seriously though, I like the variety. I worked in manufacturing software. I didn't know anything about it. I switched because the company went bankrupt, not because I had a mastermind plan to go do something else. And then I went into banking software. Why? I found a job in banking software. Okay, I'm just being honest. And then at some point I was like, I never work with the same kind of software, but the testing stuff, some of it stays the same. And I can get better at testing even though the software I'm testing is very different. And in fact, what I learned from one, I can bring to the other, and then it's like I have something old, but I have something new, and that combination really works well for me. And in fact, because I'm not working on the same kind of software, I can almost focus on my testing skills more because I can't rely on my domain knowledge. It's not like, well, I've got the banking software figured out, I've been doing it for 20 years. It's like, no, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know anything about this, I'm just learning it now. And so, honestly, over the years, some people hire me because of that. They like that. They're like, that's cool. She's worked with a lot of different stuff. I bet she knows different things. And other people, and most notably telecommunications and banking, won't hire me because I haven't been in it for 20 years. And I've decided, okay, that's all right. No big deal. I'll do something else. I'll be somewhere else and do something else, you know? But at one point in my career, I mentally, consciously, knowingly looked for variety. And I often make the comment that I gave up stability in my life for variety. Because it turns out I've done the same thing personally, and I know that that is not for everyone. So if you added that up, and you may have added it up, you might not have, you got to figure in like 2007, 8, I was divorced with one child and I quit my job. Not really what a lot of people do, but I really couldn't stand the politics, and I wanted to change. And I don't usually talk about it that bluntly, but that's what it was. And I wanted, there we go, awesome. And I wanted variety faster. I started to notice that, you know, when I took a job 3 years in, I was starting to feel like I knew the software really well, but I was starting to get a little fidgety for change, kind of feeling like, got it, want to do something else. I started to crave that faster, quicker, sooner. And so going independent, working project level and having change happen even quicker was really just, I don't know, it was a blast for me. It was great. And I learned different environments, different things faster, quicker. And it's interesting that once you work as a consultant for a number of years, the number of people who will look at you and figure you know something because you've been around, you've seen a few things, is staggering. In fact, I think I mentioned that in one of my slides, and if I didn't, let me mention it now. One of the hardest things that happens, I think, in testing is as you speak more and more at conferences, when you speak, people too inherently give you credit. You don't know me. How many people in this room don't know me? Oh my gosh, tons of you. Hi. Good to meet you. Let me just tell you all about my life. You don't know me, but I'm standing up here. So you kind of figure, well, maybe Ben thinks she's okay, and Pete said she's okay, and so she must be okay, and maybe she seems like she knows what she's doing, so I'm going to believe her. What? So you spend your entire week doubting software, doubting the people you work with, who you know better than me, but because I'm standing up here, you're not going to question me? Don't do that. And the slicker a speaker is, the more it's easy to believe what they're saying. Because they're good at that. They've gotten good at that. It's a set of skills. But you're forgetting to question them. And you should never forget to question anyone. And the flip side of that is, you know how you meet somebody and once in a while you just don't like them? Can I say that? Can I say that? Somebody tell me yes. Yes. Okay, awesome. You just don't. It happens. And then you don't trust anything they say. Is that fair? Probably not. They probably know something. And then when we have somebody we like, we think everything they say is just golden. Some of you in our field have been on Twitter enough to know that everything some people say is not golden. Okay? I'm just saying. So we need to flip the switch on a more moment-by-moment, subject-by-subject basis. Somebody's not all good, and they're not all bad. And we as testers should know that better than just about anybody. But I see this happen, that when you speak, you get almost like too much credibility, so don't give me any. I was kidding, right? But it's true. I've seen this happen. And then you speak and people come flocking up to you and they'll ask you things like, what do you think I should do in my career next? I have no idea. What's your name? Why would you give me that to answer? Do you want me to answer? Should I really directly answer that? So think about that. Be a little bit more critical about it. The other thing that I would say over the 30 years is, and I would advise this to anybody going into software testing, if you're someone who needs to learn something and feel an expert at it, and then you're done, you're set, you're like the one sitting back in the chair, everyone's coming to you, this is not a good field to be in. Because my experience has been that once I get to know something and know it pretty decently, it gets knocked down, I'm learning something brand new, and I'm feeling like a newbie all over again. And I actually get a thrill out of that, but if you don't, this might not be a good field for you. And if you have to walk around being an expert, good luck. The other thing that I found out, I had worked at a series of small, just to kind of summarize over the years, I'd worked at a lot of small software startup companies. You know, the vibe had a certain way about it, which was pretty much, if this software doesn't sell and sell well, we'll be out of work. So it had a lot of pragmatic, you could feel that energy on a daily basis. Motivation was kind of in the air. And then at one point, somebody I knew pulled me into working with medical devices. And that was a completely different world. And I kind of walked in with the same attitude of like, well, it better work really well, or like even worse things are going to happen. And then I met a group of people who were quality experts. And I was like, oh, I know those folks. Like, yeah, I'm one of them, right? No, I'm not one of them. There are quality people who do documentation for audit purposes, who study things like good documentation practices. And they make sure documents are perfect in all sorts of ways I had never known. And so one thing I learned very quickly, and to be honest, it wasn't very gracefully, there are worlds out there I don't know anything about. And there's tons of them. I don't even know how many. It's like the planets. I don't know how many there are. I only know the ones I've been on, right? And it's difficult if you only work in one area and then you want to broadcast your views onto other people when in their world it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I don't know, I think I'm describing context, but I'm not going to go there. I'll just act like you haven't heard this. And so it's difficult. And it's a wonderful thing. Like, it's mind-opening to be somewhere that's such a different environment than what you've been through before, because you can then walk away and be like, wow, like, I have experienced really different things. And when I'm in that domain, these are the things that matter. And I'm in a different domain, other things matter. So the more you don't switch around, realize that the people around you might be in a different world. And it might be one you don't know anything about. And that's okay. Success. This is where you really struggle to find photos, right? Just saying. So in my experience, when I meet people who are really hot to be the boss, a lot of times there's a lot of ego involved at work sometimes. Probably have worked with a few of those over the years, yes. Like, they want to be the one in charge, they want to be the boss, and it's really tiring to work with people like that. And I know myself, I try really hard to not be that way and look at things more like, I have no idea what different people are going to bring to the table. I can't tell by looking at you what experiences you maybe have been through, what worlds you've worked in, and I want to hear about them. So I get a little guarded, I guess, whenever I'm around somebody who just seems like they just want to be the boss. This one matters to me a lot. As it turns out, over the years, in like 30 years, I think I've only heard maybe once or twice, hey, you did a good job. And it's not because the people I've worked for or with have been jerks or not grateful or not kind. People forget, life gets busy, and sometimes people just don't remember to say that to you. I would say over the years, I would advise you to learn how to do it for yourself. I wrote a blog post about it, I think in like 2008, and it's called the Gold Star. And it's like, do you have the ability to give yourself a gold star? Because somebody might not walk up to you and be like, hey, you know what? You did a pretty good job. And like, take that moment. I disregarded that earlier in life. I disregarded it because it was always like, on to the next thing. You know what? It's not so bad to stop for a minute and tell yourself, given what I had, given where I was at, what I was balancing, what I was juggling, I did a pretty damn good job. It's not a bad thing. And then you move on. Oh, and if you have any possibility of saying that to somebody else, seize the moment. I would imagine people would ask me what I think about the software testing world and what I think is coming in the future. And a comment I wanted to make on it, I was going to do this big research on the Industrial Revolution and find out how many jobs there were as loomers or weavers or whatever those people did. I have no idea. And then say, see how those jobs are gone today? They don't exist. And we're not worried about that. Anyone in here worried that there's no weaving jobs? No, right? Oh, Ben, awesome. I know, right? Because I think that's what I want to do next. I just want to weave stuff. No one talk to me, just put her in the corner. The software world is changing, and as I look back at somebody coming in the field now versus what I was coming into, it dawns on me that when more years go by, when more time has elapsed, we're going to look back at it and say, software was really new. It was. I started working before the internet, right? Gosh, ancient woman. It's changed a lot. I look back and I really think we needed a lot of people at it, figuring it out, testing it. If you were at all reasonably intelligent and could think well and ask good questions and come in and break apart something, you were so needed. And now a lot of the jobs are automation. Now a lot of the manual testing jobs are going away. A lot of people are worried about it. I am too. I recently hired somebody who's a manual tester, and I said, I need you, right? I'm all right with a manual tester. I just know where I want to put you. I know what I want to do with you, but it doesn't mean that you're not needed. Now, though, when I look at the field, the opportunities are not as great. There's not as many positions. And the famous keynote a few years ago about testing is dead, like, we've been discussing that now for quite a while, and there certainly has been a huge change. And I don't know if there will be as many testing jobs. And now, my daughter asked me this really good, hard question. She said, if somebody was coming up now, and they had a journalism degree like you, and they worked as a reporter, and then a tech writer, do you think they could break into software testing like you did? I was like, wow, that's a really good question. No, I don't think so. I mean, ever possible? Sure. Sure. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen. Anything's possible. But no, I don't think it would be as easy. I think it would be a lot harder. And I think those opportunities would be more limited. And I look back and, you know, we don't want to think this about ourselves. We want to think we're all so unique and it's all about us. But part of our existence is the times and the world that we live in at the time. And when I came out of college, I was in Boston, Massachusetts in the mid-'80s. Oh, plenty of work, right? That's not today, and I can't even begin to pretend it is. So, looking ahead, and I'm going to watch this time closely because I know Dee is too. Looking ahead, I guess you ask yourself a few questions, and sometimes it's as simple as what do you want to do next? Short story, 1997, a little bit done doing what I was doing, wanted to do something different. I wanted to work in e-commerce. It was hot, it was new. I literally sat down one day and went, okay, all right, that's what I want next. So what company is near me doing that? Because I want a job there. And I found a company, and I made the switch. And it wasn't random, it was targeted. And it's not the first time in my life I've done that. I want to work on X. I am going to do what I can to get my hands on that, right? Do you know what your next move is? And would you be able to strike and go and do it? Things to think about. One last comment that I want to make is that I don't know, recently I've been working with a fair number of people who are going for their MBA or have gotten their MBA. And I started noticing something about them that's different than other people I work with. They seem to be much more articulate and very straightforward about the fact that they want to be promoted. They expect to be in an executive position in a certain amount of time. Sometimes I'm not really sure what to do with that, because my own career has just morphed in a very different kind of way, and I don't come from that. That's not my background. But then I look at them and I think about this. There is nothing wrong with being that straightforward about it. There's nothing wrong with laying that claim down on the ground and having people around you know it. And so I think about that now, like, am I being really clear about what I want next? Because I certainly won't get it if people around me don't even know. Just mentioning. So, I have a couple of ending comments I wanted to make, which is just one quick one. If you're new in the field, you think what you know is new, and the people before you, what they know is really old. That's cool. 5 years from now, what you know is going to be old. So welcome to the group. This isn't glamorous, but if you're new at your job or you're new in the field and you're trying to figure out, like, how would I get noticed at work? How would I maybe be promoted? It's not any of the wild things. It's be reliable. Show up. Do a great job. Do what you're supposed to be doing. And if you can and have the bandwidth to do it, volunteer for more. Oh, and when the things are not going well, it's great, without doing it in a showy way, to walk up to somebody and say, is there anything more I can do? Huge points with me when you can do that. And I would imagine I wouldn't be alone on that. Cheap advice, and this is because this didn't exist when I was coming up through the ranks. Consider how you appear in all forms of social media. It's different. It's a very different, very connected world now. But you are in some ways your own brand, and it's what you project, right? It's how people are going to get to know you. In a very connected world, if somebody searched on you, what all would they be seeing? And is that what you want them to see? And if you thought of yourself 10 years out from now, would you be okay with that stuff still being lingering around? You might not be. Think about it. Oh, and those non-technical skills, the ones that I didn't want to talk about some years ago, they can seriously hold you back. I've seen it. They can really hold you back. So they matter too. It's not just the geek stuff. So, now what? I think now people get to quiz the dickens out of me because that's what we do at CAST. And I will say before we run out of time that I'm happy to answer people's questions if they, for some reason, feel like they can't fit it in the time or they feel quiet about it. Have at it.
All right, so can everyone give Karen a big round of applause? Thank you, Karen. That's great. Awesome. All right, so we're now going to kick off open season. What I will caution you for this session and any other session in this room, we are broadcast live and recording. All these things will be available on YouTube after the conference. That said, any of your questions must be on a microphone. Michael and I will be running around the room to keep up with you guys. Do not begin your question until you have a microphone in your hand. Also, hold the microphone in your hand like I am doing right now. Not like this. They're directional microphones. They only work well when you're pointed directly at them. Got it?
Why didn't you tell me that?
Because I don't know. I failed. More bugs. I talked too quickly about cards. It's a rough morning. All right. So, as I warned you before, does anyone have any questions for Karen? Because we'd like to kick off open season. Please hold up your green cards. I have 160 and 131. It's hard to hold a microphone and write at the same time.
105 as well.
And 105. Anything else to start? 201. Thank you. Okay. All right, 160, as soon as you have a microphone.
Oh, I brought swag, by the way, and I want to applaud people who are brave, so I'm going to throw out T-shirts to anyone who asks questions.
Good morning and thank
Bribery.
you. Albert Garev, Toronto, Canada. Well, thank you for all these ideas. Took a lot of notes. And I would like to ask, so should we take a responsibility of teaching people things like, telling that someone did a good job, encouraging someone, supporting? It's usually not in the job description. So should we do this as testers and responsible community members? Thank you.
Do I understand you right? It's not in our job description to teach other people, so should we do that? Should we do that? Oh, well, okay. So for me, that would just be who I am. So I don't tend to think very much about job descriptions, I guess, at this point in my life. A lot of times I think now that clients hire me for who I am, and all of what I've been through in life is part of who I am, whatever that is, wherever that comes from. And I cannot imagine not doing everything I could for somebody. And I don't think I would need somebody to tell me that or ask me that. The only exception to that would be if I felt like I was foisting it on somebody. But absolutely, I would consider it part of it. Does that answer your question? Or you manage that?
Can you give a couple of examples? So, for example, you said that your manager might not be your career coach, but you're doing this. Is that correct?
I am currently trying to coach people who are around me, yes.
Okay. So, thanks for answering the question. Thank you.
Okay, great. And we had nothing else on this thread, right? Brilliant. All right, so I've got 131. Can you hold up your card again so we can find you? Awesome. Do you want to go center, and then I'll have an extra left.
So this goes a bit in the same area as the first question or comment more. Even though I have I wouldn't say a slight disagreement, but something to add, and that is even though your manager will not give you your career development, that's a very important person to bond with or have as an ally to help you get forward to, for instance, get you to a conference like COST or something else. So even though he won't give it to you or she won't give it to you, it's someone you really need to get as an ally, just as a an addition to what you said.
There's a difference, though. So there are some bosses who can be an ally to get you to a conference or help get you promoted, but might not understand what you actually do. I've had that a number of times where I've literally had a boss say, I don't really get what you do, but I don't really need to either. And to be honest, over the years, most of the people I meet are really bored by software testing, which is very frustrating to me, especially if they pay me and they hire me, but I have to recognize it's just true. And so I try to teach them a little bit about it over the time we work together, but I try to figure out like what they really want to know and what they don't. And a lot of times they really don't want the details. So, you know, I spare them that, right? But it could depend, right? So your boss might not always be your mentor for the subject matter, but they could still be an ally for you in the company. Absolutely.
Okay, next thread we have 105. Where are you, 105? Please stand.
Ask a hard
up.
question. Oh, wait a minute.
Right. Hey, we promised hard questions.
Is this working? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Scott.
Hi. So thanks for your experience stories and thoughts on people at the beginning and in the middle part of their software testing career. I was wondering if you had any experience stories for folks a little bit further on, specifically experience stories about age discrimination in the software business.
Yes. Here, give him shades. Too.
Yes.
For those of you on the live stream, Karen's handing out a shirt and sunglasses for Mr. Scott Allman.
Good job, Scott. Yes. Oh, man, don't rant. We only have so much time. Okay. So it's new to me. I hadn't experienced it. I had been, like, here's the deal. I had been really young for a really long time. And had really gotten away with it. I don't know, like I'm short and I don't know, whatever. People thought I was young. And actually, when I was young, my daughter's going through this now, people didn't take me seriously because I looked so ridiculously young for a long time. And my mom used to say, someday you're gonna miss that. I was like, whatever. She was so right. Sorry, she can't hear that now. But it snuck up on me. It totally snuck up on me. I didn't expect it. I was always like youngest in my family, youngest around all the testing people I've hung around with, youngest everywhere. And so I keep treating myself like somebody's kid sister. You know, I got that in me. And so the first time I hit age discrimination, it was like, I was weirded out, really weirded out. But I'm equally weirded out to think that people who are as old as my daughter, I hire now. It's weird for me. And like, I don't want to look at people's birth dates. First of all, I don't need to, so that's good. But they're weird, like, because I was doing stuff like, just mind-blowing. So somewhere I jumped over the divide. And I guess the thing that really just drives me nuts is that last year at CAST, I was sitting next to Doug Hoffman, one of my dearest friends in this community, one of the smartest persons I know, who's contributed so well to this community. And there were a lot of really young people around, like hanging out, whatever. It was break time. No one talking to Doug. And I wanted to jump up and down and be like, are you kidding me? Like, he's here. You should talk to him. You could learn from him. You're currently in what program and you're paying what money to learn? And you've got an expert sitting here, but you're not going to bother with him because he doesn't like look cool or something. He's not dressed like you, or you think he's old or something. And of course, you know, Doug and I were sitting there like, it stinks, doesn't it? It's like, yep, totally. No one's talking to us. I'm like, yep, I know. So how's your wife been? Yeah, and we just start chatting it up. It's painful. It stinks. I hate it. And I really don't like, oh, I am ranting, right? Okay. I really don't like when the reverse discrimination thing happens. Like, I'm so cool, and I'm not going to talk to you. And like, they've decided what cool is, and you know, they don't want to talk to you because you don't look like them, and it's just frustrating. So I remarried. I'm trying to figure out that again too, right? Get a job, get married. My husband is a lawyer, And in his profession, when you get gray hair and you're a senior and you've been around, it's really esteemed. They go to him like, so you remember when the precedence was set, you know, and it's esteemed, it's valued. And in my field, it's like, wow, you worked on a Palm Pilot. And I'm mocked. And so I intentionally put on my slide that I documented a key punch system. And it was really old then, too, but whatever. And somebody asked me something about Grace Hopper once. No, I don't know her. And if you're here and you're young and, you know, like you're cooler than I am or whatever, I used to be cool. There's that T-shirt, I was cool before I had you. Yes.
Karen, we got a couple people on this thread too.
So sorry.
161, same thread. Please stand up. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm really short, and I look young, and my voice is high-pitched, so most of the time when I go places, people think I'm as young as 12. I am not. I'm actually 28, so I have the opposite problem. Do you have any suggestions on that?
I do, because I was in those shoes for a really long time. I was just 28 for a really long time. Can we, we're clever, we can like do the wave with the shirt.
Yeah, pass that on back.
Yes, I think the only way you can beat the whole rap on I'm young and not being taken seriously is to know your stuff. It isn't really fair, but you're going to have to demonstrate it even more than somebody else. And it's not that, oh, I'm a woman, so I have to work twice as hard thing. All right, we got that going on too. But you can't fake it. So you cannot fake expertise at some deep level. So, true story, personal, kind of awkward, but it might demonstrate the point. My daughter needed surgery at one point, and so we were waiting around ER for the magic surgeon to show up, which is a nerve-wracking time. And this really young guy came in, like backpacked the whole thing. And I had already reached an age where I was kind of feeling like, okay, he's looking really young. And I had an instant discrimination against him. And I found out that he had been the protege of one of the top surgeons and knew his stuff. And there were people later who said to me, you were incredibly lucky to have gotten him. You could not get better. And I kind of slapped myself around for that. And I now try very hard to treat people like, I don't know what you have inside. And so I have to try to ignore any of the noise of outside packaging, because that's all it is. Like, it's a package, right? Like, I have a jacket on, like, whatever. What's inside? I don't know what you've got. And I should give you credit for that, and just let it come out. Just be yourself and let it come out. Don't try to fake anything up, because that never will work. And eventually, like my mom said to me, you won't have that problem.
Okay, tweet on the same thread or new thread?
This is actually a new thread, so we...
We've got a couple more on this thread then. Number 32.
Yeah, as far as the discrimination goes, you know, early on, when it's like your first job out of college, there's a lot of companies, they really don't want to be the first one to hire you because you're untested, you're unproven, you've got no track record.
Yeah.
But over the years, and I've been around almost as long as you, let's say.
Nice.
Only people I've known to have problems with those people that found themselves a comfy chair or a pigeonhole and they crawled into it and they didn't change technologies, they didn't change areas, they just had their one thing, they specialized in it and they stuck with it and they stuck with it and they stuck with it. And when that particular need for that job skill ran out, they are now unemployed.
True.
So embrace change.
Right, and we have 149, same thread.
A possible thing that might work, and obviously this is easy for me to say because I'm not short and people don't mistake me for being 15 or whatever, but the opportunities now for publishing and making a reputation for what you write online are certainly better than they were. So that's a possible route some people might be able to take so that their name, they build a name, and then when people meet them, they may be surprised, but at least they have a name to associate with a reputation, possibly. That might work.
Do I get a pink card?
If you want to, yes, please,
I
you're the
have
speaker.
a pink
Go
card.
for it.
So last year, Ben interviewed me after Cast, and it's on YouTube, because that happens. I did this whole rant on the celebrity tester. Here we go again. Oh my gosh. I think it's okay to publish things, and I think it's okay to, be on Twitter and do all these things. I do them, I get it, and you get known in the testing community. Fine, totally fine. One question I would have is like, what does success mean to you, and is that what it is? Maybe it is. It might be. Totally might be. This is where you have to like get inside yourself. It might be. If to be famous is what you really want, you want like your 15 minutes of Kim Kardashian or whatever. Sorry, can't believe I said that, but you could do that. Is that your end goal? And I think one of the things that's a little bit sad sometimes in the testing space, and I don't know if it happens in other professions, we're getting a little hung up on that, like the celebrityness of it and being famous. And I think there are some people I won't hire because of what they do on Twitter. First of all, bad behavior. Second of all, are you thinking about anything, or are you just on Twitter every 4 minutes? Because I want to know you can focus, and I need you to think. And I don't mind Twitter, and I'm social too, but like enough, right? Like bring it down, and I want to know you can focus. So little rant on that. And yeah, you should probably see my 10-minute rant on YouTube on that.
And speaking of Twitter, we've got something on the Twitter.
Yes, so we also have, so for those on the webcast, please remember we also do have a tweet printer. So if you actually do put in a tweet for questions for these, you will get a chance to get them asked. So we're going to start with this one, which is from the test doctor. And for Karen, how would you challenge managers who don't respect the work-life balance?
Try not to work for them. Work for them only when your personal life happens to be completely under control. Hope it doesn't shift. See if your family can handle it. So I have this, this happens to me, not every year, but often, where somebody will come to me and say, I really want to work as a consultant. And I want to travel, and I want to work on all these different projects, and you sound like you've had some of that, and that's kind of cool, sounds really fun. Oh, and I'm married, and I have 2 small kids at home. And I say to them, like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work at this time in your life, like, because the whole thing has to work together somehow, or something breaks. And I've seen that. It's not good. It's sad when that happens. And you have to figure it out. So, like, you could probably tolerate, honestly, you could probably tolerate working for that boss for some period of time if the experience you're getting is good enough. But then I would leave. I would. I'm being honest. I'd go.
Okay, I'm going to trip on the mic stand. Unfortunately, we're at time. So I would like the following people to please stand up so that Karen knows who you are so she can find you later, because all of these people still have questions for Karen. Number 201, number 150, number 148, 11, 33, 95, 163, 145, and 156.
Oh, boy.
Awesome.
So Karen, thank you so much. You obviously have a greatly interesting topic, and it's been great.